Go. Welcome, everyone. This is the Jenkins SIG platform SIG meeting agenda. Sorry for not so good introduction. So around the table today, we have Mark Waite and myself, Abunavashtan. If other people join along the way, we'll welcome them accordingly. Just let me click on the participants window so that I can catch them coming in. You never know, that could happen. Anyway, for today on the agenda, I have Java 25. Not that we have many things new to talk about, but nonetheless, container image updates for the Jenkins controller, for the agents, the work in progress on images for the controller and agents, a small word about alternate platforms, and then we'll finish with RISC-V if we still have time. Mark, is there anything you would like to discuss which is not yet in the agenda? No, you're good. Thank you, Mark. So let's get started. Java 25, it's been more than a month, actually. And the infra team has been making even early access versions for quite a while from last summer. And plugin maintainers, some of them have given them a try because I think that we have in the 250 most installed plugins, around 22 plugins already compiling with JDK 25. And in the 1,890 something plugins globally, I think we have around 70 or so plugins that chose to compile with JDK 25. So that's a good move in a way or another. And we are still trying to compile the top 250 plugins with JDK 25. Mark has way better results than I have. My method may be flawed. I'm still around 51%, and Mark has better results than that. But it's okay. I think, Mark, it's around 150 or 30.
No, I think I'm at 140, so it's actually not much better than yours.
But it's better.
137, so a little, marginally, yeah.
And the difference with the previous week is that, Mark, you are not trying to tweak anything before compiling. You're just using them as is. And if you're a plugin maintainer with a recent version of the Jenkins parent POM, give them a try. The latest version, 5.20 something. It may be the only thing you may have to change in order to be able to compile with JDK 25, but your mileage may vary. We have now a JDK 25 Docker agent image. It's been a few weeks, and we don't have a JDK 25 Docker SSH agent image yet, and the PR is still in review. And even if I have addressed, I think all the PR review comments, yep, there is no urgency to merge that. Nobody is desperately needing that, so we can still wait a few weeks or months. As for the controller, we had pull request to update that to JDK 25, but it's not the case anymore because Jenkins itself is not yet fully compatible with JDK 25. I think I should have put a link to the PR that Adrian created, but I forgot. Yeah. Am I wrong or not, Mark?
No,
Adrian is still working. Yeah.
That pull request has not been merged yet. It's received several approvals, but we're still working through trying to understand the impact of Jetty 12.1.
.x, yeah. So that's the blocking point for the time being. Thank you, Mark, for your insights. And now for the insights. So we had an LTS last week, thanks a lot Hervé, who was the release lead. And we had one breaking change, which is update Debian images to Trixie. So if you are using the latest LTS controller image and face some new issues, it may be due to our move from Bookworm to Trixie, which doesn't mean that you will have some problems. I mean, most of the people will just transition smoothly without any problem, right? And after moving to Trixie, of course, Trixie lives its life, so it's getting updated. So, of course, we had to bump the version and also the usual suspect Alpine Linux bump, UB9 bump, and so on. For the weeklies, the 200 and 500 and the 2.532, we have dependency updates like usual, and also on the documentation, the update of the Docker images reference from JDK 17 to 21. As for the 533, it is still, it's still building, so we don't have the release yet. There is a flaky test or something like that, Mark, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's why, but there is still hope it will finish by tonight, my time, so I will change the doc accordingly if I see anything. If there are anything, Mark, I haven't seen yet in the changelog that we should talk about for the weekly?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nothing important. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mark.
All right.
Now, on to the container image update for the Jenkins agent. So we have seen recently one new release for the Docker, so it's for Docker SSH agent, it's 7.3.0, and there is nothing groundbreaking. We just improved the GitLFS version to 3.7.1. Yes, Mark?
Which is a security fix.
It is.
So users should be grateful for it. It's an interesting security fix. So if somebody wants to attack you and has access to your GitLFS repository, they could do funny things.
Ooh. Funny depending on which side you are looking at that from.
Right.
But
okay, funny not as in entertaining, funny as in disturbing and disconcerting, etc.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. And now we are building GitLFS from repo instead of Linux distribution packages. That can illustrate that it's good to do so because you have sometimes that kind of security problems, and you'd better use a more recent version than the one that is bundled with your distro, because sometimes it takes a few weeks to get it updated. But if you are building it directly from repo, you have the latest one, which brings other problems, like for XZ, for example, or you have to find the right balance. Whatever. For the Docker agent, not the SSH agent, we have seen two new versions with the usual bump of versions. So the Jenkins remodeling, the Git version on Windows, the GitLFS, blah, blah, blah. The Alpine Linux also, and UB9, like in the other images. And we have the JDK 25 Windows images now available for everybody in the general availability version of the JDK 25. Now, onto the work in progress on images. So this one is done by Hervé Lemeur, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there was a problem in account Jenkins versioning format in version LT, and so he's trying to solve that. And it has already been accepted by Damien and Tim, so I guess it's okay. It's way too technical for me to understand what's going on. It's linked to Windows, and I'm a Windows user, but not a Windows developer. So that kind of thing, okay, it must mean something.
Yeah. So what happens is there are some cases where instead of relying on the plugin installation manager tool to do decisions about is a plugin newer or not, we've got separate code that decides is this a newer plugin or not. And that logic in that is this a newer plugin or not had flaws in it. So it's
okay.
Every time you duplicate logic, particularly complicated logic like that, we're asking, you're going to get problems, especially when you're implementing in a language like the shell. Right, or PowerShell. Those are not particularly as rich as the other languages are, or they're more likely to surprise you or do little things that, oops, didn't expect that.
Okay, I wouldn't even touch them with a stick, these kind of scripts. So, well, thank you, Hervé, for that. As for the Docker agent, Hervé also is trying to run each JDK test in parallel so that it takes less time, and less time means less money most of the time. So that's a good thing. Whenever this thing works, we should spend less money. Thank you, Hervé. We have a running PR regarding the permission of home directory for Debian-based images, but I'm not so sure this one will be merged. It's a more complex program. That was what was exposed at the beginning of the PR. So we'll see where this goes. I'm not sure it will be merged as is.
Yeah, I expect we'll close it.
Yeah, most definitely. Nonetheless, thanks a lot to the contributor who tried, and we agreed to disagree with what he brought, and that's okay. That's part of the life of an open source project. Now, the accept remoting ops containing spaces. This one has been running for quite a while. I don't know, but it's not merged yet. Okay, we'll see. It's not building correctly for the time being, so maybe that explains why, and nobody has approved it yet. Stay tuned. We'll see. And as for the Docker SSH agent, we talked about that earlier. We haven't yet merged the support for JDK 25 for this image. It should come in the coming weeks. We never know. Mark, any comments or question before we switch to the two not so important subjects?
No, none for me.
Thank you, Mark. So a few weeks ago, we talked about Gitpod sunset because they decided that it's time to make some money. I totally understand that, but so that it's not free for anyone anymore. Unfortunately, our quick start tutorials were heavily relying on them. It's not mandatory. It was not mandatory, but it was a quick path to having Jenkins running. If only you have a browser. Just having a browser and internet connection was enough to have a Jenkins controller and agent starting, making it possible for you to run a Maven tutorial, Python, Node, whatever. So that was pretty. We don't have the numbers, but it seemed to me that it was pretty interesting to have that kind of thing. If you are not allowed to install Docker on your machine, or if it's you have slow network connection, whatever, everything was happening within the browser. But then in sunset, and we thought maybe that's the end of it, or maybe we should explore other possibilities. And then we decided to have a look at GitHub Codespaces. And as it worked almost as good as what we had with Gitpod, we chose to move to GitHub Codespaces in the documentation, so on Jenkins.io in the tutorial section, but also on the Quick Start tutorial repo part of the Jenkins docs organization. And the two of them work well. At least that's my point of view, because I tested that on several different machines, and it's okay. It's not as easy as it was with Gitpod, but nonetheless, if you have a browser, a GitHub account, and I think that's all, you're good to go. You can have a Jenkins instance running within your browser, of course, not in the browser, somewhere in the cloud, but showing in your browser. And yep, so if you follow the documentation, the tutorials, it should work out of the box. And if it's not the case, it's easy to open an issue. Just let us know. And last subject, which is not that important because we have not yet decided if it's a good thing for Jenkins to include RISC-V as a supported platform. But nonetheless, I wanted to do something around RISC-V because I think it's an important platform. It will become an important platform one of these days, and we like to be on time or even early when it's possible. But what was blocking for me is that most of the distributions we have with RISC-V do not supply a Docker version at all. For example, we have, of course, some of them were Fedora. So, of course, no Docker, but you have Podman, sometimes, not always the case. And we want to have Docker Compose because of the quick start tutorials. So what were we to do? Some of the machines that I have run Debian Trixie. And Debian Trixie has been supplying older versions of Docker, which is kind of fine, but we wanted to have something more recent in order to do some things, some technical thing that need to have a recent version of Docker. And unfortunately, now there's some kind of a bootstrap. Docker needs Docker to build Docker. So I started researching, and after a few weekends, I can say that we now have Debian packages for Docker-D, Docker client, run-C, container-D, tiny. Yep, so for Debian, and since yesterday, we also have some packages for Fedora. I know it's not normal to have Docker on Fedora, but nonetheless, I did that. I'm kind of a Frankenstein doctor. So if ever you want to try Jenkins on RISC-V through Docker, it's now possible. And so that, we've been running Jenkins on RISC-V for 3 years now. So it's nothing new, but it's not official yet, and I highly doubt it will be until maybe next year or so. But you used to be able to run Jenkins on the RISC-V directly thanks to the Java that was provided by Timmering, and now you can also do that thanks to Docker. So you can add a level of complexity just for the sake of it, because why not? You're a Docker fan or you're not. And unfortunately for you, I am. And that's all that I had, Mark.
Thank you. That's great. Excellent results. Thanks very much.
Yeah, that would have been even cooler if it was useful, but time will come. You know what? Build it, and it will come. We'll see that. Thank you so much, Mark. The recording should be available from 24 to 48 hours. And until next time, have fun with Jenkins. Bye-bye.